All right, so we've got Melissa White on the call. Hello, Melissa, again.
Hi.
So here's the meat and potatoes of all this. We had a call a few weeks ago with JP, and actually I've been told by a few people, Tara Macia says, oh, you want to reach out to Melissa. JP, I mean, there's a handful of owners that I met at Keys that as we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, a lot of the owners were just discontent with the recruiting. We've all had recruiting challenges. So many of them, yourself included, and this is the main reason we have you on the call. Well, let me get on the front lines and see what it's really like. Rather than my recruiters telling me what's going on, let me see what's going on. It's kind of like, hey, if you're going to transition onto a new campaign, you, the owner, you might want to go in the field and see what's going on. You might want to be the one setting the pace so you can pass along the goodies to your people. So in the world of recruiting, like, again, I'll let you kind of give the stats, but from my understanding, you know, you had a 4-leader crew, you started picking up the phone, you started pulling resumes, and you took a 4-leader crew to a 12-leader crew just on your own efforts. So walk us through what you've learned, what you've seen, and, you know, please share what you've got for us.
Yeah. So let me tell you first the backstory that led to this. So I had Kelly MacGyver do an audit of my financials, right? And I was like, I just feel like I'm spending in areas and I'm not sure how it compares to everyone else or what I'm doing. So she came back to me and she said that I was spending more over that last year. I'd spent more than most ICLs in recruiting. Right. And it was like some crazy number, but I really wasn't paying that much attention. But I got so mad, not because I spent so much money, because I spent so much money without a return on my investment. Right. I would have just rather taken that money and paid myself and gone on vacation or done something cool with it if I was going to get the same result. So I got so mad that I was like, I'm not going to continue doing that same thing. So I got rid of everything. Right? Like when I say everything, it was everything. I got rid of a bomb, an ad writer, a recruiter, a trainer, I don't even know what else I had here. Digital hire, applicant starter, my phone lines. I got rid of everything. And I was like, I'm not paying for anything, right? So once I got to that point, then I was like, well, what's our plan, right? Because then I was like, well, I guess we're just going to roll with this. I guess the guys will just do the field because that's where we are anyway. And so I'm partnered with my husband. And then he said, well, why don't you get on the phones and see what's going on? You're an amazing recruiter. And at first I was like, I'm not going to be the recruiter, right? That was initially my attitude. And then a couple of days later, I was like, all right, well, clearly we need to do something. So the first thing actually that we did is we contacted the New Jersey Unemployment Department, right? Because I was like, what's free, right? And I had an org admin still. It's the only thing I didn't get rid of. And so I was like, let's contact the unemployment department. And we told them we were looking for a position. And I feel like everyone should do this in every state. And they put an entire thing together for us and sent out emails to every single person that was like ever unemployed in New Jersey, right? So her fiance even received an email, and he was a business owner at the time. He was like, this seems like you guys, right? And it was. So Donnie and I did a live presentation in front of the New Jersey Department of Unemployment. And we're like, this could go totally awry, right? We're like, talking about how we do, 100% commission. I don't know who's going to be on here, right? They might be, not into it. So we did this whole thing. Obviously, some people are into it, some people aren't. From that, we started getting some applies into my email. I didn't get rid of my email. We got a leader out of that, right? So we got one leader out of just doing New Jersey unemployment, but that was totally free. So then I didn't have the ability to get on Indeed myself. So I did have Shanda, who is Ed's org, I don't know if it's org recruiter. Either way, I had her do one ad on Indeed for me. one ad. But now at this point, I didn't even have applicant starter, right? So I don't even have applicant starter. I don't even have like phones that say my company name. I don't have anything. I just wanted one ad, and that one ad that she placed, it went into her email. And so I went into her email and I would just look through the emails. And as I'm looking through the emails, I'm not getting that many, right? I'm not getting that many. I just went through and started making calls with my phone from my phone number to the candidates. As I'm doing that, I'm putting them in Google Sheets so I can organize who I'm calling. So forget about applicant starter. I'm just saying I'm so technologically not adept. And I just went to the most simple thing I knew without making myself crazy because it was overwhelming to think. So I just started tracking them that way. I'm telling them that I'm looking for someone to do face-to-face sales and representing our client in a business-to-business capacity, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm just being really clear and intentional, having a conversation. I'm booking them. After I'm booking them, then of course I'm sending them an email, right? You guys all know this. Here are the things that I feel like we're just different. My guys didn't get better, right? Like they didn't get better all of a sudden at recruiting, but all of a sudden they were getting different results, right? They were getting different results because of the conversation I was already having with the candidate. If they weren't great, I was just getting rid of them. When I'm booking them, I'm asking them to confirm, hey, just confirm, just to make sure that you're, getting the email and it's not going into junk mail, right? And if they didn't confirm, I'd wait a little bit and then I'm like texting them and I'm like, hey, I didn't see your reply yet, right? I didn't see your reply yet. I'm like shepherding them and they're like, oh, and I find out a couple things. A couple of them are like, oh, I actually didn't get the email, right? And I actually maybe got it wrong or whatever. And that person wouldn't have gotten there, or they got there and they just didn't think it was that serious until I'm shepherding them. Jamie Hep did that to me for this call. He's like, hey, are you okay with us recording the call today? Right? That's just saying, hey, don't forget about the call that you said you were going to be on nicely, right? That's what I was doing to the candidate. The next day, I would just text them in the morning and I'm like, hey, just wanted to make sure you have everything you need. Are you all set to go? Do you have the login? Asking a question, making them answer me. These are just the things that I don't believe that just a recruiter that is not invested, married to the owner, has skin in the game, whatever is doing, right? So I looked at my list, and by the way, I had started on 12/27. I looked at the date, right? So this is in between Christmas and New Year's, right? So it wasn't like a convenient time to like get people or whatever. I started on 12/27. I just looked at a 2-week period of time. I didn't make that many calls because I was still doing everything else I was doing, right? I couldn't not do my calls. I couldn't not do the other jobs that I have to do. And I didn't have that many resources, right? So I couldn't just waste the resources. I had made 80 calls, right? 80 calls between 12/27 and 1/14. That's not that many. It's not that many calls. I spoke to 67 of those people. You ask your recruiter how many people they call and how many people they speak to, and they don't tell you 67 out of 80 that they're speaking to. Because I have the list of every single person I called. And when I didn't get in touch with them the first day, I text them and let them know I was trying to contact them. And then I would call them back. And I just was so intentional with the calls that I was making because of the lack of an abundance of resources. From that, I had only left 17 voicemails. I had booked 43 of them from just that little period of time of like 2 weeks. Over the break, we had 7 new starts between Christmas and New Year's, when most people were like maybe taking time off, didn't take it that seriously. So those little things made all the difference. So I'm like, this was really just 8 steps. It was so simple. It was 8 steps. I'd pick a resume to call. I obviously wasn't going to pick someone I would never hire, right? I didn't have to call the best person in the world because I had to start somewhere, right? I had to build my confidence at first just to get someone on the phone and just to see, like how it was going to go, get my pitch right, whatever the case may be. I called them with my cell phone, no Google Voice, no anything. I spoke to them. I put them in Google Sheets. I emailed them. I expected them to respond, right? I wasn't okay with like, hey, just confirming. And the people that confirm and they show up, and the people that don't confirm don't show up, right? Like I just wasn't okay with not getting the result from the people I wanted to come in. I confirmed in the morning of the interview, and I did the callbacks to offer. And when I did the callbacks to offer, I am going over all of the things that the guys are going over. Did they explain the day-to-day and that we were going to be going business to business, presenting Verizon services in a business setting? If trained properly, do you feel comfortable working on a performance-based, bubble? And I go over the commission. I'm assuming they went over that with you. But either way, I'm reclosing them. It didn't take so much time. I didn't even have to do this whole final interview. I was just reclosing them over the phone, right? So I didn't intend to do this like full time, but often we have limiting beliefs about our growth based on our limit of resources, right? And so I needed to know what I could do, what's possible, what's capable, like what I should expect from a recruiter, right? Eventually, I hire a recruiter. I want to know that my resources aren't getting wasted. I want to know that this is what I should expect the reps to feel from the conversation, because I can just give her the pitch that I have already established, right? And I just wasn't doing that before because I was outsourcing everything, right? Like I even outsourced the training of my recruiter, right? And eventually, if you're going to build a big business, you can't be self-employed and do everything. But my philosophy is like, if you don't have a pace setter in the field, you need to be the pace setter in the field, right? But the only reason I want to be a pace setter in the field is so that I can teach one other person to be a pace setter in the field. And once they're a pace setter in the field, I don't want to have to just go out to just generate revenue. I want other people. So I'm only, and then I have to transition to be a recruiter so that I can make sure that we can grow the company. That's it. So you need to put yourself where your business needs to be. So here are the major things that I learned. We overestimate the time, effort, and resources it takes when we're intentional, right? We just overestimate what it's going to take, so we don't do it at all. We get overwhelmed. We think it's going to be so much instead of just doing something. The value of resources. Are you getting a return on your investment? How much money is wasted on resources that are underutilized, not maximized? Right? Like, how many calls does it take your recruiter to have 48 booked and 7 start? How much money did it take to get those calls? Right? Like, just think about that one thing, because for me, it was like nothing, right? It was nothing. It was one ad, actually. It was one ad at that point. But I also had free resources from the Department of Unemployment. Inspect what you expect so that you can hold people accountable. We know this, and we know everything, right? You don't know nothing I'm going to say to you guys right now. You don't know, but we don't do it, right? Like, we just don't do it. We only do the things that, this is what Sebastian says, right? We only do the things that we value most, or the things that are just coming easy to us, what's in our comfort zone. So once something gets out of our comfort zone, we just stop doing it. But of course, we don't grow if we're in our comfort zone. What got you here won't get you there. You have to evolve. You have to evolve. So the business is ever changing, always. Before the pandemic, it was still ever changing. After the pandemic, it's still ever changing. Do not be too prideful to get the best idea from the newest person or the person that is just kicking ass. Whatever I'm doing, that's great. Someone else tells me something that makes sense that they're doing and I think it's better. I don't care what their experience is. I'm like taking all the notes. I will try that. I am not too, set in my ways that I have to do it my way. I just care about providing opportunity and winning whatever way that makes sense, as long as we're doing it the right way with integrity, right? And this is, I think, the most important thing to keep in mind. Abundance flows where energy goes. Abundance flows where energy goes. So wherever your energy is going will be the thing that grows in your business. If you're talking about rejects, rejects will get better. If you are so intentional in recruiting and making sure that you're shepherding the people that you want to come, it doesn't take that much time. It really doesn't take that much resources. And what was really important about all of this wasn't just for me when I have an abundance of resources, it's for the owner that is going to have no resources when they first start out, or limited resources, or promoting out a deal, or wherever they're going to be. At some point, you'll probably have someone that needs to know this. So for me, this made me feel a more confident leader to be able to help some of my outside deals too, who are moving and they're now doing the same thing. So not only did I do this, I have a guy in Seattle that moved with 0 guys in the pandemic because we couldn't do something for Res in New Jersey. He moved with the 0 guys. He did the recruiting, and now he's like about to promote assistant manager, whatever, from 0 guys. So this wasn't like, also the confidence came because I also saw him doing it. I'm like, damn, that's impressive. I'm going to do it too. I'm on the call with him. He's coaching me, my outside deal. I'm asking him. I'm asking his recruiter, right? I'm like, can we get on a call for a one-on-one and you tell me how to do some recruiting, right? That's how our conversation went. But it worked. It worked. And also, the last thing I want to say to this is, even when I have a recruiter, I never feel like I'm not in control now. No matter what happens, I know I can grow the office. I also have a guy who is in Las Vegas who I was like, hey, go to University of Nevada or UNLV or whatever else. Get them to start having interviews there. You don't want to spend money on recruiting right now? Awesome. Guess what? They're like funneling him like recruiting right now. And he already has interviews set up that cost him nothing from the school. When the school endorses you, when the Department of Unemployment endorses you, it gives your company credibility, right? So there's just so many things and ways that we can grow when we're not stuck in the box. So when we get out of the box and have ownership of it, instead of it just being like a job, you just take ownership of it. It's your company. It's your brand, your company. You think there's a couple people that want to do what we do? Of course. We just overcomplicate it. And so I just took all of the complication away and just made it really simple. Just real simple, just like our system, right?
That's awesome, Melissa. Your testimony makes the Tony Robbins quote come to mind. It's not your lack of resources preventing you from being successful. It's your lack of resourcefulness, right? So you just stripped Humpty Dumpty completely off the wall. That's interesting how you started this off. You just completely stripped it off the wall. Let me re-put the wheels on the bus from the ground floor. And now, as you're training a recruiter, I mean, nobody's pulling the wool over your eyes.
completely. And I'm on it. Like right now, that's what I'm doing. And I'm like on it. I'm like, here, oh wait, this interview said that whatever. Are we using the script? Let's go back to the script, right? Like I'm just feel so confident about being on it and not just letting it happen, right? A lot of times we let it happen. We're like, oh, I guess that's just, the way it is.
Interesting blessing in disguise, isn't it? That
It was.
you were so frustrated, you just completely kicked Humpty Dumpty off the wall, and again, where's my return on investment? I'm spending thousands of dollars on recruiting and I'm netting zero. Something's wrong here. So I think that's great. And for the record, I only texted you to see if we could record the call, just for the record. I didn't have another intention behind that.
I was just kidding.
Thought I'd set that straight. And so are you asking your owners I'm just kind of curious, now that you've gone through that and you've got an owner in Seattle who's just as successful as you in this department, are you asking your owners to just get more hands-on, or like, how are you leading your org?
But yeah, they all are. I mean, I feel like they're kind of in the beginning stages of it. And I have another owner who just moved to Virginia, and he did the same thing right before he moved. And so again, same thing. He feels really confident. Now he's going to use a recruiter, but he did it. And so now that he did it, he feels confident to holding that recruiter, accountable. And how to find resources. I have, someone that's doing it right now in Las Vegas. And I just feel like they take ownership, and they don't feel like when they're doing the like, especially if you don't have a lot of people, if you're doing the interview, you're not checking off the box, I have to do interviews. And it's just a paradigm shift of doing the job versus building your company. And I've been in both places, right? Like I've been in both places. And when I'm in the place of just going through the motion, and everyone at some point, there's seasons. If you're in that season where you're just going through the motions, you're checking a list, you don't have the paradigm shift, you're not building your business. And when you have that mindset, the conversation just changes when you're talking to a candidate. You're not booking to book, right? So it is hard still, even having a recruiter, because her job is to book, right? So until she has skin in the game, I can't ever expect her to feel that same way until I've developed either that relationship or whatever the case may be. And I've had that recruiter before. And so it takes time to develop that. If you don't have that, there is a lot of inspecting until you either develop that, and especially if it's someone that is outsourced. So knowing how to inspect someone that is maybe remote, or, you know what I mean, they're working with other people too, they're not just yours, is different. It's very different. Now, if you have, again, like if you have someone who is truly your partner in life, or, or just they have a different connection to building your business, they're going to treat it differently. So I definitely have instilled this in the org, and I think that they feel good about it too, to go through, that transition.
Yeah. And I'm curious, after going through that, are you carving out a certain amount of time weekly just to make those calls, just to keep that connection going on?
That's funny. That's funny you said that, because now I feel on a day, if I don't get the result that I'm looking for, I have done it now where I'm like, hey, I'm just going to go through and, like make a couple calls today or whatever. And so now I do feel like at any point, I feel like I need to do that, or I want to, just to make sure that I am on top of it, just to make sure that we can get the results. And when the recruiter sees that you can do it immediately, they also have to continuously step up their game, right? Because if I call 10 people and I'm getting 6 people who we then hire versus 3 people that showed up and we hired one of them, that's a big difference in a day, right? So just me being able to even do that in a day and knowing that I can do that gives me a lot of confidence in having conversations. Luckily, I've had really, great responsiveness from, the person that I'm working with now, and she has, real good great student mentality. So that's been great. But I also feel okay with letting someone go if they're not the right person, and not feeling obligated to keep someone too long because I don't know what to do, which before I for sure kept recruiters way too long, like not getting the result that I wanted. And they're, I'm like, oh, I like them. Hopefully they get it. But meanwhile, what's suffering? The guys in the field who are busting their ass and not getting what they need, and my business, revenue for my family, all of those things, right? Like, why? Who I have to be most loyal to my family, and sometimes I'm like too loyal. I don't know that everyone has this problem, but sometimes I'm like too loyal. So learning to also not be too loyal at the expense of my family, and I have to put it in that perspective. And that is the only way sometimes where I can really be as aggressive as I need to be to grow the business with the right people.
Yeah. That's awesome, Melissa. What a great testimony. And again, just a weird blessing in disguise. I'm sure you weren't thinking that at the time as you're totally frustrated, banging your head against the wall. But boy, did that ever come out to be a powerful scenario where you're just completely in control of your recruiting. You're not dependent on your recruiter. You're a little more indifferent now with the recruiters that, if they're not cutting, I can relate. I've got a recruiter not doing well. Well, gee, I can't let that person go because then I'm completely screwed. Whereas that, you're not in that paradigm right now. You're like, I'll do it myself temporarily if I have to, and I'll get great results. So well done. I think you made your point loud and clear. Any departing words you have for us, Melissa? I think you did a great job on this call.
I just think the biggest thing is just be intentional and be where your business needs you to be. And it's not just the business always just needs me to be in the field. It needs you to be wherever your business needs you to be. So go through your funnel and take ownership of what that is, and you'll be more engaged, exciting, and again, abundance flows where energy goes. So wherever you're putting your energy, you're going to see the result. And I just think we're coming into a great time of year. So I'm excited for everyone over the next year. Thanks for having me.
That's great. Great lessons. Looking forward to seeing you at NatCon.
Yes, you too.
Okay. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
See you guys.